Discretion is advised.
El Salvador is the smallest, most densely populated Central American country, bordering with Honduras and Guatemala. The country has a population of around 6 million and is classified as a lower to middle income country, with 29.6% living below the poverty line. Gang violence is the second leading cause of death in El Salvador, and its murder rate is on track to pass Honduras, making it the deadliest country in the world. In August, the murder rate reached its highest peak since El Salvador's civil war ended in 1992, averaging a murder every hour. Two rival gangs, the Mara Salvatrucha and Barrio 18, originated in Los Angeles and returned to El Salvador following an aggressive deportation policy in the States. Chronic poverty and lack of economic opportunities have made it easy for gangs to recruit youth and allowed the gangs to take over control of the country, leading to a bloodbath among gang members, police, and innocent citizens. The roots of violence in El Salvador are deep and decades in the making, and violence is only part of the problem. One in 10 Salvadorans rely on gangs for various reasons such as income, social support, and a chance at survival. Gang activity affects nearly everyone in the country. We spoke to a mother, a police officer, and a gang member to attain various perspectives on the issue.
My children have experienced violence in the streets and in their schools. I'm scared to let them take the bus to school as there has been a recent spree of murders on public transit. Last week, my family and others in the community were forced to leave our homes after receiving death threats from the Barrio 18. They accused us of housing Mara Salvatrucha members in our village. We are only a small percentage of Salvadorans who have been displaced due to violence. After we had to leave, I made the decision to send my sons up north with smugglers in hopes of providing them with the safety that I cannot offer while living here. If I send them, they may die, but if I keep them, they will die.
Many children are sent from El Salvador by their families. The horrible truth is that migrant children traveling alone are frequently kidnapped for ransom, kidnapped to be used as slave labor, including packing cocaine for Mexican drug traffickers, drown in the river crossing, die of dehydration in the desert, get separated from the group walking at night, or are sexually or physically abused by authorities in Mexico if caught. A 2014 report by UNICEF stated that El Salvador has the highest youth and adolescent murder rate in the world. Salvadoran children are facing violence in their homes, schools, and streets. For tens of thousands of children, the only solution is to be sent out of the country or join one of the gangs.
Growing up here, we have two options: join the MS-13 or their rivals, the Barrio 18. I was recruited into MS-13 at the age of 12 and introduced to a life of violence and crime.
In 2012, this young man was part of a 15-month truce involving the gangs, the government, police, and army that cut homicide rates by about half and even led to a handful of days with no murders at all. The truce has fallen apart, and consequently the homicide rate will pass 90 per 100,000 people in 2015, making El Salvador 20 times deadlier than the US and 90 times deadlier than the UK. Police are not investigated when killing for what they claim to be self-defense, and killings by police have surged to over 300 this year already.
The truce was ended by a crackdown, making things worse. Now the cops are running around killing us all, claiming self-defense without any questions or trouble.
The police officer we spoke to had a different opinion.
My wife is a teacher, and her colleagues are afraid of their students. As a cop, my colleagues and I are afraid to enter certain communities. We have to protect and defend ourselves first and foremost.
Approximately 10,000 Salvadoran gang members are behind bars, but that doesn't solve the problem.
There is one jail that is supposed to have 800 inmates and has 2,600. No guards will go inside, so the prisoners run the place. They have everything they need to run it themselves, including a bakery, workshops, and a makeshift hospital they staff.
In April, the gangs offered to sit down for peace talks to discuss a possible decline in killings. However, the Salvadoran government responded by stating that the war would be won through force. We know the current strategy is detrimental to the country, but with that we propose a question: what solution will stop the violence?